Now it's time for In Case You Missed It, our news and notes segment where we fill you in on everything you might have missed. We start with some disciplinary information. The NWSL's Disciplinary Committee issued a supplemental discipline following the review of the incident involving Chicago Red Stars forward Ludmila and Washington Spirit forward Rosemonde Kouassi in the 69th minute of the match between the two teams that occurred October 20th. Ludmila and Kouassi both received red cards during that match, resulting in an automatic one-match suspensions. So that includes this weekend. After further review of the incident, however, the disciplinary committee found the conduct of both players to be in violation of the major game misconduct, meaning that they've got more suspension. So Ludmila has been issued an additional 2-match suspension, increasing her total suspension to 3 matches. So if Chicago loses in the quarterfinal, the first round of the playoffs, Ludmila's suspension will carry over to the 2025 season. Meanwhile, Kouassi from Washington Spirit, she's been issued an additional 1-match suspension. So now she is 2 matches total. That includes the final weekend of the regular season and the first round of playoffs for Washington Spirit. Sandra, this was big news, a lot to talk about. 2 red cards in game, and then additional suspensions for both players. Is it fair?
Yeah, I think it's totally fair. Listen, first of all, don't pull players' hairs. If you pull players' hair, you're whack. All right, don't do that. Don't pull another player's hair. That's number one. And then if you do that, you're gonna serve the time. And so, good on the disciplinary committee for taking a look at this again and saying, okay, this was not good. This was not a good situation, and they handed down some more consequences essentially. And I think at this case, when you're looking ahead a little bit, 2 teams that have already qualified for the postseason, they've got playoff games in front of them along with this final regular season game. It's a massive loss, I think, and I think more so for Chicago, if you're looking at how their season has kind of had these ups and downs, whereas the Spirit have just sort of been in contention really for the majority of this year. So I think there's hope in that maybe Rodman is closer to being back, and they will have Sarr back as well, potentially closer to being back. There's weapons here to go around for the Spirit in terms of their attack. And I think when you're looking at Chicago, this is almost near detrimental at this point, because while everyone is well aware, including Mel Swanson herself, that she hasn't been able to get on the ball in the back of the net since before the Olympics for the Red Stars specifically, now you're adding in this layer where the player that they signed during the summer window, who has been providing some more surprise attacking elements for Chicago, is not going to be a factor moving forward. So it's absolutely brutal and detrimental for Chicago. I think it's also equally tough for the Spirit in terms of Kouassi and what she has provided for this team in light of not having a Rodman or a Sarr on the pitch. But I think when you're weighing out the timing and how long these suspensions are, I think it's going to be a little bit more brutal for Chicago to come back from this.
Ooh, I think so too, especially if Chicago ends up losing and this carries over to next season. Some other big news in the youth world of women's football. The U.S. women's youth national team reached the FIFA U17 semis for the first time since 2008. Then they took on Korea DPR. That happened last night. Unfortunately, U.S. lost to Korea 1-0 in the 69th minute. An absolute bullet of a goal from Ru Eung-hang from North Korea, but they will play again for the 3rd place, November 3rd, 1:30 p.m. Eastern time in the Dominican Republic. But interesting, North Korea has now knocked out the U17 and the U20 in the Women's World Cup this year. Some NWSL players on this U.S. team as well. San Diego's Kimi Escanio and Mel Barcenas, and then Angel City's Kennedy Fuller. Speaking of Angel City, they've announced that veteran forward Sydney Leroux has agreed to a 3-year contract through 2027. Aaron, she's staying in LA.
Yeah, and the announcement was really cool with the kids. I love how much they involve the 2 of them with them. It's a real family affair there. But I mean, she's scoring bangers. She scored important goals. She's still the player that she has been. So she's rewarded with a contract, a new contract. It's exciting for everyone in that organization, I think.
I love this for Sid as well, knowing she's actually part of the reason I chose to go at UCLA, seeing a Black player break records, go play professional. How many goals did she score on her debut with the national team? Was it like 3 or 5 or something like that? She scored an insane amount of goals. And so for her to become full circle, knowing she's going to end her career in LA, where she went to college and really established herself as an icon in the women's game, is just a really dope storyline. And I'm happy for her. And I can't wait to see her ball out for the next couple years.
Some injury updates. Manchester City confirmed that forward Vivian Miedema has undergone a successful surgery in her left knee. And then back in the States, Utah Royals have placed forward Canadian international Chloe Louquasse on the season-ending injury list. She will miss a portion of the 2025 season. She ruptured her ACL and sprained her MCL. That happened in the second half of Utah's last match against Angel City. That was October 20th. She has undergone a successful surgery and is going to stay in Utah working closely with the medical staff. So wishing both Miedema and Chloe Louquasse safe and successful recoveries back to the pitch. UEFA, they have announced that they plan to boost the women's game with $830 million investment, saying that they're going to use the money from competition revenues and UEFA investment to distribute to national team competitions, club competitions, and national associations. It's still a little confusing as to what could potentially come, but they say that they plan to introduce a second women's European club competition to sit beneath the Champions League. It's going to be a straight knockout format with teams competing against clubs knocked out in the early round of Champions League. Aaron, do you like this?
I like the overall idea that we're investing more money in the women's game. I would like to hear more specifics to understand exactly what the money is going to. I know that German legend Nadine Kessler had said that we cannot just focus on the countries that are already advanced in their development, and that will bring more tailor-made support for those countries that need special help. So I like the idea of pumping more money into countries that need the investment in their women's programs to help build them up. I like the idea of adding a second competition if it's properly supported. I still think we Women's Champions League as a whole needs to be continue to be supported before we even think about a second competition as well. But as much as the idea of €1 billion in women's football is incredible, I want to know where it's going and that it's being used properly. But more investment is always good, I think.
I completely agree. I think we need to know specifics because, yes, that's a big number, but what does that mean? I mean, we see every league that attempts to have some sort of expansion or added gaming around that doesn't really have the proper scheduling, backing, travel, medical care, support for the players, support for the teams. I want to know really what this means and the details of it, because I don't want them to bite off more that they can chew, as with Aaron said, when Champions League still could use a lot of work.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We, of course, will keep you updated on what UEFA plans to use all that money for. We've got big NWSL this weekend, final match day in the regular season with playoff implications on the line. So watch all of it. We'll be back in studio on Monday to recap it.